welcome to the Back Porch Kitchen. My name is Lindsay. I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids, and this vlog is going to really be about me balancing my mom life, my wife life, with my chronic illnesses. So we're going to post a video every Sunday, so we hope that you'll stick around and join us. This particular video is actually going to be about my particular brand of chronic illness, and this is actually going to be part of a 3-video series to address all of the illnesses. So I hope you'll stick around to watch them and at least hopefully learn something, maybe even relate to them. While this channel is not specifically about chronic illnesses or illnesses in any fashion, it is about my life and something that I have to balance in addition to the hard work, the job that it is to be a mom and to be a wife, because that is a job, is to deal with all that stuff with my chronic illnesses. So making lunches, making dinner, doing laundry, all kind of has to be based upon how I'm feeling on any particular day or a week or a month, because it might be a month before I feel like a recognizable version of myself. And that's hard for people who don't have chronic illnesses to understand. So unfortunately, many people who have chronic illnesses do what I have called energy budgeting. What that essentially means is that we almost have a video game-esque meter kind of up in the corner of our vision that has our health for the day. So we aren't working necessarily at 100%, or maybe we are, but that health meter ticks down very conspicuously. On a good day, I might wake up at 60%, but that is on a great day, and that is not my normal. A normal would be about 30%. I wake up, and as soon as I open my eyes after sleeping, hopefully I've slept, because as we'll get into, I have insomnia, I have sleep issues. So I don't always get to sleep, but I still have to wake up and be a human being. So after sleeping, I wake up, I might only be at 30%. And everything I do that day, from putting on socks to doing laundry, running after my toddler, cooking dinner, we have 3 huge dogs, running a household, all of those things decrease my health, and I can see it and I can feel it. So I have to make sure that I'm kind of keeping those things in my mind and saying, well, I at least need to get these things done, because if I don't, even though I know logically I'm not failing, I feel it. I think most moms and wives feel, even if they don't have illnesses, they have this preconceived notion of what momming means or wifing means, and we don't always take other things into consideration. So this specific video is going to be about 2 of the larger, I think, illnesses in my life, which are fibromyalgia and fatigue. So these things are a lot more discussed now than they were when I was first diagnosed with them. The first thing we'll start with is Lyme disease. Now I have something that you'll hear called chronic Lyme, but I think maybe the correct term is post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome. So what that means is that I've received antibiotic treatment, I've received all the treatment that they could throw at me. And while I don't have active infection in my body, so if they run blood work, they're not going to see the actual Lyme in my body. But because I went undiagnosed for so long, I still have the symptoms. It still feels like I have active disease in my body. So I was diagnosed in about spring of 2008. I was moving from North Carolina up to Maryland to go to school. And I was born and raised in Virginia, but I had moved to North Carolina, being young and dumb, and then I was moving to go to school up in Maryland. And I started having what I thought was actually light sensitivity issues. So while I was driving, I would almost lose time. I would see what was in front of me, and I could see my arms on the steering wheel, but I couldn't control them. They wouldn't fall, but it was literally, I was just frozen in time. And that might be for 3 seconds, but when you're driving, it feels like an eternity. And when you're not in control and you're a type A person like myself, it feels even longer. So I went to the doctor and got checked out, and they said, we'll test her for Lyme disease. Came back positive, started doing oral antibiotics, and eventually I had a PICC line put in, which, if you don't know, is a catheter that gets inserted. I had it in my right arm. I have a smiley face scar here. And it just allows intravenous antibiotics to be given to you instead of having to do an IV each time. And I had that actually for 9 months. And during that time, my Lyme, it just progressed so quickly where I was pretty much a vegetable. I couldn't take care of myself. My boyfriend at the time was cooking me dinner, doing laundry. I needed help to get off the couch where I was sleeping because I couldn't make it upstairs. I needed help to go to the restroom, and I couldn't speak. It's not that I couldn't get words into my head. It's that I literally could not make the connection between my brain to my mouth. So I would have what I wanted to say in my head, but it couldn't make its way out. It's extremely frustrating, especially when you're a talker like I am. It was so frustrating, and I felt less than human. And it was a situation where in Thanksgiving, I think it was in 2009, we had a bunch of family over at my parents' house, and I was there visiting. I couldn't drive because I was having these seizures still, and I was trying to say something. I couldn't get the words to come out. My sister, in true big sister fashion, kind of made fun of me because I was stuttering and just couldn't get it out, and I just broke down crying. And it wasn't because she had hurt my feelings. It was just because I was so angry and irritated that who I consider myself to be fairly articulate and, intellectual, I could not get simple words out, and it crushed me. So for a long time, I really struggled with that, and that led to, of course, anger and kind of lashing out at those around me because I was angry at my body. I felt like I was betraying myself. So after many, many years of treatment, and they basically said, we've done all we can do, there's not really anything else we can do, I just had to live with the symptoms. So now they're not so bad. Some of the base symptoms are brain fog, cognitive issues, so memory issues. I might remember something that happened 10 years ago. What I did yesterday, no idea. Words, so getting certain words that come out, I'll just forget the simplest of words. Even if it's very appropriate to what we're talking about, I completely forget. Pain is probably the biggest issue, and it has been for a few years now. Before, initially, it was 100% the brain and the cognitive issues and the seizures. I learned to deal with the seizures. But the pain, I have really severe joint pain in my hips, in my knees, in my toes, in my fingers. Every morning before my feet hit the floor out of the bed, I have to crack my toes because they get so stiff that if I don't do that, I can't walk on my feet. It's so painful. My hips are probably the worst pain point. And if I've done a long day, which for anybody else would probably be a very short day, you can almost see me. You see me kind of slowly metamorphizing into a 90-year-old woman. That's a big deal and a big issue. Something I also deal with is something called Lymocarditis. So this is essentially where the Lyme disease, when you have active bacteria in your body that's not been treated, it goes into the tissues in your heart and it kind of blocks electrical signals. And by the way, I'll link different sites like the Mayo Clinic, CDC, some Lyme-specific organization sites, so you can look up all this information, just become more aware. But about 4 to 10% of people who have Lyme disease develop Lymocarditis. Unfortunately, because I was undiagnosed for so long and untreated for so long, they can't do anything about it. It just kind of is what it is. The damage has been done. So I'm not on any treatment for the Lyme disease. I'm not on any treatment for the Lymocarditis. I don't typically have any issues with that. I'll get chest pains. I've had many EKGs and tests, and I don't have any blockage in my heart. My heart is healthy. But I'll get these pains, and I get dizziness, some shortness of breath, but that's usually attributed to something else we'll discuss in, I think, video 3 of the series. So that's Lyme disease taken care of. Now, fibromyalgia. This is a tough one because fibromyalgia is a tricky disease to diagnose and to treat because fibromyalgia and Lyme disease really their symptoms are mimicked by a lot of other diseases. So a lot of times someone is diagnosed with Lyme or fibromyalgia, but they might have MS. Now you can do, I think it's a CT scan or MRI scan to see if they see any, lesions in your brain that will lead them to think that you have MS. But the symptoms are very similar. So I was diagnosed in about fall, winter of 2008 with fibromyalgia, and I was just in a lot of pain. And this wasn't the joint pain that I have with Lyme. So with Lyme, it literally feels like someone is stabbing me with a large gauge, like a biopsy needle, into my joints and twisting. And it's constant. It's not a sharp, wait a few minutes, wait it out, and then it goes away. This is a constant pain that, again, on a good day, I might wake up and might be at a 6. That's a pretty normal day for me on a pain scale, which is a mythical thing anyway. It doesn't really mean anything to anybody. But it's about a 6, so it's bad, but I can live with it. But this fibromyalgia, to me, it feels like all of my nerves are exposed. There are days where wearing clothes literally hurts, and this could be the lightest, softest fabric. I mean, cashmere out the wazoo, and it hurts. It's all over pain. It's on both sides of my body. So the test that they do for fibromyalgia is I think it's called a trigger point test, and they push on certain areas of your body. I want to say it's 12 or 16 points. And if you kind of hit a certain number, score a certain number, you are considered to have fibromyalgia. Now, that's kind of an arbitrary thing. It's for such a complex disease, it seems like a simple test. And also, you tend to have flare-ups. So you might be feeling good one day, and the next day be in so much pain you can't function. So something to keep in mind is that there are a lot of invisible illnesses that you can't see, so you shouldn't judge. If someone says I'm in pain but they look perfectly fine, doesn't mean that they're not struggling with something. So I think it's important for you to keep that in mind, to be sympathetic and empathetic with people you see, and just because you can't recognize something in them doesn't mean there's not something in them. I'll say this, with all the links I'm going to give you below, I don't think that there's a concrete source or something that really encompasses everything. So do research, read about it. If anything I've said, if you say, well, you know what, I've been struggling with pain for a long time, and you've seen a rheumatologist and they don't think you have arthritis, or go see your primary care physician and see if they'll give you a Lyme test. I had been having symptoms of this pain that was just increasing in severity from my youth. And at first I was told by the doctors it was growing pains, which I think is kind of a throwaway answer. But even when I said, no, I'm really hurting, and I horseback rode from a young age. So I was told, my parents were told I was making it up, but it was so real. And so, I mean, there's nothing they can do about it. The doctors say there's nothing wrong. I'm making up. What are the parents supposed to do? And back in the 80s and 90s, of course Lyme existed. No one talked about it. It wasn't popularized. And I grew up in the country, literally running through fields in the woods, white-tailed deer running around our yard, fishing, rolling around on horses in stables. So it's a very real possibility. I had it from a young age, and because of the severity of my symptoms when I was diagnosed, and also the fact that I still have them and don't have any active infection in my body, even the doctor said it's just something that you're likely going to be dealing with for the rest of your life. Hopefully you won't, but the likelihood is that you will. So please, if any of this stuff, any of this information feels real to you and something you can identify with, and you haven't been tested, get tested. And if your primary care doctor won't test you, find a doctor who will. You should advocate for yourself. Be your biggest supporter, your biggest fan. Get tested. If anyone in your family has these symptoms, they haven't been tested, get them tested. And it can save you so much pain in your life. And really, if you get bitten by a tick and you get infected with Lyme, the curation rate is pretty high if you catch it really quickly. So even if it's been a little while, a couple months, it's typically handled pretty quickly with a good round of antibiotics. But if it's not, and it's left to fester for a long time, it can have lifelong consequences, and I suffer with that. So I don't want anyone else to have that issue. So look at the links below. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer them. As I said before, this is not going to be a channel about illnesses. I'm not going to be going to doctor's appointment with you guys. You're not going to see any sort of treatment I get or medications list, just because most of my life is centered around that. I literally have to decide, can I make dinner tonight, or can I vacuum the living room? Because if I do both, I won't be able to function by the time 4 p.m. hits. So all of my life is centered around illness. Most of it is. I want this to be an opportunity for me to connect to people and for people to connect to me and see, yes, that is a part of my life. That's not the entirety of it. I think as someone who has chronic illness, one of the most understandable but frustrating things is when people see you and look at you and say, how are you? That's a loaded question. It means well. But what that's saying is, I know you're really sick. Tell me about it. And sometimes you're like, yeah, I'm sick. I'd rather talk about other things. I'd rather talk about my toddler talking and his attitude, or I don't always want it to be about that. I want to be as normal as I can be. So I want this to be a place where we talk about food and family and life and being a mom and being a wife and enjoying each other rather than it centering around something that ultimately I can't control. So I hope you'll join us for the other videos. The other videos in this series are going to include things like migraines, seizures, the big C, cancer. So a lot of things are coming up, as well as some mental health issues like depression and anxiety. So I hope you'll stick around and hear more about that and what my battle has been. But also, we're going to have a lot of other content. So the base of this channel is really going to be about food. I cook a lot. I love cooking. I'm used to do private events. I love hosting. Me being a mom, although you really won't see much of the kids in the vlog just because 3 of them are my husband's kids from his first marriage, so they're my bonus kids. And I don't think it's right to include them because I think kids have a right to say if they want to be included in that or not. And also I think their mom has a say. I don't want to approach that. And my toddler, you might see him occasionally, but he's definitely not going to be the focus of it. So I hope you'll stick around to see some food and family and life things, and you'll join us for later videos. So hope you'll have a good day. Bye.